Let's call the meeting to order here. We were a little bit late getting started. I trust everyone's had a chance to look at the minutes. Are there any corrections? We can't approve it yet until we got one more joining us, but are there any corrections to the minutes as presented? Okay, we'll take that as a no corrections. You want to talk about the pay application number 20?
There we go.
Number
You got
25?
Get Rusty just joined.
Okay, we're all set. All right, let's go back to the start. We'll talk about the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion by Sean.
Okay, and a second, please.
Second, Duke.
Duke will second. Are there any further comments, questions, or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by raising your hand. And it would appear that we have unanimous agreement. Okay, thank you. Pay application number, is it 25? 25.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, George, David?
Yeah, this month we're, through the month of February, billing $1,044,000 and then some change. Paso Concrete, that was, for the slabs on grade. They're pretty much finished with all the concrete work. They just have a couple steps they're working on now, but for the most part, that's complete. Masonry, they've started the masonry work inside the building in the gymnasium area, and also some of the shear walls. Schenectady Steel, that's just delivery of actually the rain chain. General trades, just some winter protection, setting some door frames, roofing. Obviously, that's starting to dry in the roof, and then actually, at the end of the day, we should be pretty much dried in for the whole building. Spray fireproofing, started the intumescent paint of the columns and also fireproofing of the deck. Gypsum board, they've been, the exterior framing is just about complete, and they've started putting in clips and laying out for the interior framing. So once the spray fireproofing is done, they'll start setting studs. Fire protection, some, setting, and actually all three: fire protection, plumbing, HVAC, Ferguson Electric. That's, they've been putting up hangers, ahead of the spray fireproofer, and also delivered, equipment on site. So for the most part, on site we have, the equipment and the materials for those trades. And then Sean's Lawn finished up all the work inside the building, and they're continuing with the stormwater system. So, and with our fees and everything, that's $1,112,000. With retainage, it's a net of $1,044,000 for this month.
George, what's the distinction between the spray fireproofing and the fire protection?
Fire protection is the sprinkler, the
Okay.
water system.
All right. Thank you. Are there any questions for George concerning the payment application? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the pay application as presented to this meeting in the amount of $1,044,013.69. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sean seconds. Is there any further discussion concerning this pay application? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Here's unanimous. Any nays? Any abstentions? The motion's carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, George, let's talk about the progress report.
Okay. For the month of January. We're still projecting, substantial completion for the site work beginning of May, assembly wing, end of May. Um, the contingency that went down a little bit. We'll get to that, a little bit later with the winter protection and that change event number 42. But down probably 30,000 and some change. But we're still carrying a healthy contingency, a CMR contingency or construction manager's contingency, 850,000. And then with also the allowance funds available, projecting that we have about 940,000 between the two, which obviously at this point is still healthy.
If I could stop you there, George, I did a quick calculation. The $940,000 that George just referred to represents 54% of the original CMR contingency and allowance combined. Looking at all the contingencies, in other words, adding in the owner's contingency, we now have remaining $2,549,000 of contingencies and allowances, which is 59% of the original amount. This sort of is a pretty good cushion at this stage of the program, especially since the remaining building is a more simplified structure, being an open space, and we don't have to do a lot of utility work or construction of utility spaces. I just wanted to throw that in, George, before you got further, so people have a sense of where we are in this program.
Okay. And then cost schedule impacts. There was no proposal request issued this period. One RFI, which was answered, it was really didn't have any impact on schedule or anything. Same, no ASIs were issued. PCOs that went in for approval for the subcommittee. We had some market boards in the kindergarten classrooms that got accepted. And then the concrete blankets and premium time, Capasso's masonry winter protection, and then also OWI winter protection. That was all related to that change event 42, and it's for winter protection. And then there was another one for a temporary plywood fencing along Riviera's property line, just to add some more sound protection. It's right along the playground area, so we put up a temporary plywood fence to keep the sound down for the recess. Just 2 open PCOs, which we're working on now, propane tank enclosure modifications, which we're getting numbers for. Schedule activities, we didn't really change any of the major logic. We did adjust some of the lag times with the activities to keep the substantial completion, but pretty much the logic itself was didn't change at all. We just, like I said, adjusted some of the lag times, mostly between the fireproofing and MEP hangers, and also casework and ceiling tile. Procurement issues, we did issue all the trades to get status of the any of the materials or anything like that was outstanding. So Con Acoustics, GDS, which is the drywall, Capasso, the masonry concrete, kitchen equipment, Ferguson Mechanical Electrical, J.E. Shea, which is our low voltage contractor, flooring and working. They have all their materials, either it's on site or they're stored off site. And then we're still following up with OWI, our general trades, Sean's Lawn, our site, and then TC Lawns. We're just confirming, but I believe last spring he bought all the plantings and everything, but we're just confirming that. And then M&P painting, which all he really has left is the paint itself, so I don't see those being an issue with the procurement.
George, with Sean's lawns, is that materials, is that the topsoil, basically?
No, the topsoil is actually TC lawns, which you
Okay.
guys have. Norwalk. Sean's lawn is mostly manhole structures, the storm structures. We do have the detention basin. We did get delivery of, let's see, majority of the manhole structures a few weeks ago. So I don't. And then we were also told they have the chain link fencing um, as well. So I don't think we have any issues. We're just kind of double checking and confirming that with them.
Okay.
As far as progress, Sean's long completed excavation and all the interior work in the building, and then inside the building, we completed wrapping the scaffolding in plastic, and then we started spray fireproofing columns with the intumescent paint. That's pretty much completed, as well as piping of the roof drains. That's all piped in, and like I said earlier, um, we should be dried in with the roof membrane by the end of the day today. And we're continuing installing hangers and doing the spray fireproofing. And I'm going to say probably next week we'll start hanging ductwork, and then maybe doing some steel stud framing.
George, do I understand it that all of the galleries, retention galleries, are on site?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, they're on site, and right now they're prepping to start installing them. Finishing up some of the piping that has to go in before. So I'm going to say probably middle end of next week they should start the galleys.
Okay, thank you.
And then that's the status of our punch list. We did get some done over the break, and then we got some guys to come and finish up punch list during the February break. Most of it's the painters.
What about the commissioning status?
Yes, we did. I guess Sean from SCS, he's left, so we got a new commissioning agent. We met with him probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's working with Ferguson Mechanical on closing up his portal. So right now this hasn't been updated, but last week we did get an update from Ferguson Mechanical on the on their issues. So right now we're just kind of vetting those out and confirming them, and then we'll update it. But as far as the physical commissioning work, that's all been done. There were a couple items that Ferguson claimed they did correct. Put it in the portal. We just haven't put our eyes on it yet to confirm that those have been corrected.
They're not dragging their feet, are they? I mean, they're helping to get this thing done.
Yes, yeah. With the new commissioning agent met with Ferguson, and then also with Jim Hendrickson, and
Okay.
the three of them been working together, get it closed.
All right.
I did talk about the schedule. Like I said, the logic that really hasn't changed. And then we have some photos. This is the building. We wrapped it with the plastic on the outside. This is Sean starting doing some of this drainage work. As I said, this was done in the middle of January, but all the slabs have been poured. We have started, the spray fireproofing in the hangars. This is kind of like the kitchen area. We're looking at the kitchen areas kind of over here. Cafeterias over there. This is the gymnasium, so they're starting to lay out and get ready to do the block walls. And I got some more recent photos. Yeah, this is kind of looking, towards the music art area. You can see where the spray fireproofing is being worked on. The intumescent on the columns, that's all complete. Again, we're kind of looking at the cafeteria, kitchen area, where you can see the hangers being placed. They are starting with shear walls. The exterior framing is near complete, and actually the fireproofing on the exterior is near complete as well. Like I said, Sean's working on the storm lines, and actually this is this pump station, so there's going to be a retaining wall here. So they're doing that so that they can kind of finish filling in, but they started some of the storm work so they can get started with the detention basin. This is inside the wall. This is the south wall of the gymnasium. It's kind of hard to see with the sound block, but they're up towards the sound block area right now. And these are the galleys. So Sean's just prepping this area and putting in the final storm piping so they can start the galleys.
George, did you end up having that discussion with Banesh about the storm? The pond and managing the storm during that install?
Yes, yeah, we did. There's, I don't know if you can see it, but there's another. You can see the corner of it. Right here is there's a retaining pond right here.
Yep.
And then what they're doing is they're going to have like a temp line that's going to go somewhere near this catch basin right here. That's being set, and then the storm water from the site is coming down. Even from the academic is coming down, and it ends up in this catch basin, and then eventually this pipe will go. There'll be a pipe that goes in the retention, but we're going to put a temp pipe that's going to go into this storm.
Okay.
This pond. So that's what they're working on now. So once they get the temp pipe in, they'll start the detention or the stormwater retention.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
And then this is the north wall. We're working on that as well in the gym. And then, as I was saying, the roof. It's right now it's dried in. After today, it'll be 100% dry in, and then they'll start working on all the details and everything else. And then this is the gym again, kind of looking where the stage area is going to be. But as I said, all the intumescent painting and all that's been done. And that's all I have. Unless there's any questions.
Not hearing any questions. Let's go on to our next thing on our agenda, which is the kind of a detailed analysis of the change event 042. I tried to put a lot of notes in here. Maybe it's a little confusing, but basically we had a delay doing the academic wing for getting roof materials. This was back a year ago in the fall. And that delay in receiving roofing materials, we had to make an estimate of what it would cost us to catch up and still get substantial completion by the end of the academic year. And we had, I think, a $90,000 estimate, but we only ended up really having to spend about $18,000 of it. So $72,000 was never spent. And that was sort of in reserve, if you will. Then we get to the delays that were caused this past fall, which was basically all the remediation of PCBs around the building, the old building, and then the discovery of the very old, very large septic tank, which was directly under a major structural support for the assembly wing. Those two items put us back in time. And so we had to make an estimate about what it was going to cost us to catch up. And we made an original estimate back in November, and that's shown in the column way on the left, which said about $100,000. Well, when we got closer to it in January, we realized we had a whole bunch of other costs. So we ended up with a $222,000, $23,000 cost, of which just the winter protection side was about 190. So what George did was he looked at the various trade allowances that we had built into the subcontractors' existing contracts, and he found that the OWI had a very large allowance for temporary toilets and washing stations due to COVID. So of that amount, he pulled out $64,000 to reduce the net amount that we're going to have to spend. Now, so we have a total net cost here of about $159,000. But that's all being applied against the construction manager's contingency. Am I right, George?
Yes, that's correct.
So basically, it's reducing the construction manager's contingency outstanding, but it's not affecting, we're not paying additional monies to do this. But I think the contingency funds are really like additional money, so it's hard to say which is which. I put all this together. I hope I didn't confuse anybody, but I thought what was interesting in this package was the size of the allowance that was built into OWI's subcontract. And they had, which was the third page of this document, they had originally $204,000 in allowances built into their contract. And they've only spent $61,000, $67,000 so far. And of that amount, there was $126,000 was allocated for temporary toilets and wash stations. Well, hardly they're going to spend that kind of money, period. So George decided, well, let's take $64,000 of that allowance and use it here to offset some of the expenditures. I thought I would ask George to give us an idea of what are the total amount of allowances in the various subcontractors' contracts, sort of as a group number, to give us an idea. It's an extra cushion, which if not spent, we'll get back to our project. So George, do you have that number roughly? Just a rough number?
Yeah, actually, I got, the spreadsheet that I use to kind of track all of it. And it's actually, a form of it's in the report as well. But yeah, this lists, all the allowances that the trade contractors had in their contracts. I think it was originally 345,000.
Okay.
And then, I just track what are pending amounts, what we've built to date, and then what the balance is. So, right now, we're carrying a balance of like 111,000, with the allowances.
And so from the committee's perspective, we ought to view that as another, if you will, bucket of contingencies that's there to help us. So, when we
Right.
talked about the total contingencies earlier when we were doing the progress report, here's another bucket, which we are tracking. And if we don't spend, it comes back to us as a reduction of the total cost of the project. I just thought that was an interesting analysis that came out of this change event and the winter protection program. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Kip, just one thing I wanted to just quickly mention is relative to the, why there was such a disparity in that general trades allowance too, was just rewinding back to when we bid the project was when the pandemic was really in the full throes. And at that point, we had different requirements for job sites as far as what we had to provide for facilities and how often they had to be cleaned and wiped down to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So that's all loosened up. So we didn't end up needing to enlist the general trades for anywhere near the amount of services relative to that, which is why there's so much left in that pot of money. So
Understood. That's the good news. The good news also is we pre-ordered most of our materials, or I had the subcontractors pre-order most of the materials.
Yep.
Any other questions on that from the committee?
George, this
Rusty.
is Rusty. Can you send me that chart, please?
Yes. Did you want me to send it to you in Excel? I can send
Yes.
you the Excel spreadsheet. Okay.
Great. The next item concerns the upgrading of the service for cell phone in the school. It turns out this was triggered. This really started because the burglar alarm kept triggering without reason. Well, it turns out that the burglar alarm is connected to the alarm monitor by a cell phone. And the cell phone reception turns out to be very, very poor within the school. As a matter of fact, almost, if you will, non-existent inside the school. Step outside, you can get some bars on your cell phone. We didn't know about this. So we went further and we asked Jeff Adams of IT, what could you do about that? And he said he went got some quotes to build what's called a repeater, and then wiring in the school to make sure the antennas for the repeater were working. I've asked Dr. Forshaw to talk about this just for a minute because I think that a lacking of a cell phone capability is a security issue. I mean, if a teacher wants to call out or a parent wants to call in or whatever, I just think that not having the ability to talk on cell would be a real problem. Dr.
I
Forshaw?
appreciate that. Thank you, Kip. I appreciate that. And I'm on a cell phone today, so I'll keep my hands steady so as to not cause motion sickness. But yes, that's exactly right. When we discovered that the burglar alarm was having communication failure as a function of the limited cell reception, particularly in the lower level of the building, and particularly once you get into the maintenance areas, there's like no signal. Basically, at the moment, what we've been doing is I've been advising faculty to make sure that they have their Wi-Fi on because you can make Wi-Fi calling. But it is a safety concern relative to should the Wi-Fi be down or there's a member of the school community who doesn't know that trick, they really don't have cell coverage. So in the conversations with our construction subcommittee in reviewing what Jeff is proposing, there's a conversation that we thought was wise to have with the bigger committee around this request to do a cell repeater. So it would solve the problem of the burglar alarm system. We went through a couple different iterations of, well, you could potentially hardwire the burglar alarm system, you could try to get it on your internet channel and so on. But I do think this is the best solution because it solves for two issues. One, the burglar alarm will have proper and reliable communication out to the cell signal. And then more importantly, as Kip pointed out, it'll have reliable cell coverage. This will boost the reliable cell coverage for the building in totality, which would be great.
Yeah, thank you on that. Rusty and I talked about this, and the material cost, as estimated by Jeff Adams, and we got some quotes actually, is about $43,000. Then there's also the installation cost. But as I understand it, and I'm sorry, Kevin Burnett's not on the phone today, he offered or talked about having the district personnel do the installation at the district expense, and the committee picking up the cost of the materials of $43,000 odd. And I think that this makes a lot of sense. And while we're not asking you, we don't have a final cost for the total thing with district installation. I just wanted everyone to hear about this. We think it's a safety issue. We think it's a smart solution for the safety issue and the burglar alarm issue. If I wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of this and open it up for discussion if you have any disagreements or questions about it.
Hey, Kip, how's the fire alarm connected to the outside world? Because, in the world that I live in, that, the building codes are switching to internet with cellular backup for fire alarm dialers. And, that brings in the same question for the Bergs and the safety of the people, but the fire alarm is a top priority. So I asked that question in regards to that connectivity.
I don't have the answer on the fire alarm situation. I do know that the burglar alarm was a Wi-Fi connection to the monitor.
It's
We've had no issues with the fire alarm system, and George, correct me on this.
No, it's not. Luke, it's not so much the fire alarm system itself. It's how is it connected to the foreign central station.
That's
And
right.
all the, the million square foot buildings I've been working in all over the country, it's now being required that you get rid of your POTS lines, you get rid of your point-to-point connections, and that you go with internet with cellular backup. And if you're having trouble with your cell signals, then you're going to have trouble with the cell signal on the cellular backup for the fire alarm. So in addition to, I think, fire alarm's going to bypass everything and go right to the top of the priority list. So I go George, and maybe George and David, maybe you all know how that's connected.
Yeah, it's a copper line, just a regular copper line from Frontier for the fire alarm and the elevator.
Copper line going to internet or copper line going to POT?
I guess it's pot just like a regular phone. It's not going to internet, I know that. I'm not sure what pot is, if that's
It's
just
like
like a regular phone line.
POTS is plain old telephone service.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what it is. It's the actual. It's going to the DMARC to the school, and that's
Right.
a hard line to the telephone
Yeah.
system out the street.
Right. The elevator and the fire alarm is just a telephone line going to the DMARC, which is in the MDF room, and then out on the street that Frontier ran.
So Sean, you're saying we should have a Wi-Fi backup on this?
No,
Or internet
primary.
backup?
No, I'm learning that it's going to be primary. And
Primary internet?
Yeah, and so I go back and say, I think that the issue that's been raised is important, and I'm just going to bump it one higher because in our central station, fire alarm is the number one priority, and elevator entrapment is number 2. Panic alarm is number 3 in the order of priority. So I think that being that we're year 2023, I think we need to take a good hard look at this and make sure that we have cellular backup connectivity behind the internet. And just make sure that we're compatible going into the next 10 years for that. So, by doing that for the fire alarm or any other panic device, you're going to raise the level of cellular service within the building. And again, by adding repeaters, you put it all over the building. But I think we definitely have to make sure we have an antenna on the roof for cellular backup.
Sean, would you be willing to talk with Jeff Adams, the IT special head of IT for the district?
Absolutely.
Because I think I'm sorry that Kevin Burnett is not on the line today, but he's the guy who's really going to make it work.
And Sean, it's Duke. I would include, since we have the new chief of security and the former chief of police for New Canaan, I would have a meeting with him and Kevin. It kind of falls under his world of security on top of facilities.
So you're saying
absolutely.
You're saying Kevin Burnett rather than Jeff Adams, or have Jeff there too?
Yeah, no, I would. Thanks for correcting, Kip. I would say Kevin, Jeff, and include Chief Kralowski, who's the new head of security.
I'm happy to wrangle the players if you want to do that, Sean. I can reach out to those partners and make sure that we're all getting together sooner than later. Good call.
All right.
Sean,
I don't know that. Because we've had discussions, throughout the year, on differentiating costs between the board of education versus, the building committee. And if I can weigh in on that, you're going to split it and say, the building committee pays for the equipment, and then the school facilities installs it. And I'm sort of the mindset, being that we still got construction on site, I kind of think we ought to take care of it and then let the school operate it after it's in place and pick up the parts and the labors. That's just, I'm throwing it out as a dart onto the table for all of us.
That's unusual for you, Mr. Sean.
It's very unusual, but I feel like it belongs on the building side or capital side than it does on the ongoing side on this particular issue. So I am fair, Kip. I am fair.
Well, I think the fact is we'll come back to the committee when we have all the information down And and when you have, after you've had that conversation, to understand exactly what we should have, and to make sure it's, going to be good for 10 years going forward, at least.
Yeah, will do.
All right. Anything else on this matter? Thank you very much for your participation. Are there anything else to be brought up today about the project? Hearing none, and there's no public comment that I'm aware of. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Marcy makes a move. Second for, okay. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you all very much.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good week. Thank you.